Did you know the oldest city in the United States is right here in Florida? Right here in our home state, which is St. Augustine, Florida, founded by Ponce de Leon over 459 years ago. That's a long time, but not really.
Nope.
No, no. We thought it was until we went to the UK,
Yeah.
until we went to Oxford and found out that town was around before the Aztec Empire. So towns are very old in the UK, but that got us thinking, how old are the towns in the UK? What is the oldest town in the UK? So we found a video by Alex in Great Britain that says the 10 oldest cities in the UK. So today we are going to find out, we are going to learn, we're going to educate ourselves, per se.
We're good at that.
We're very good at that. But before we do that, it is that time again where we give a shout out to our charity of the month. This month is Action for Children UK. This is a charity that's been around for 155 years, and they're kind of like a one-stop shop for children and families. They help homeless children. They provide resources for families, mental health, kids. They provide a texting service for kids if they got an issue that they can text somebody and say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. So they really cover all these bases for children.
Yeah, they seemed like a good place.
Yeah, it seems a good place to spend a little bit of money. So we're going to leave the information down below. They're all over the UK. They have tons of events. They have tons of places to volunteer. So if you guys want to donate a little bit of money and help the youth of the UK, leave it down below. We'll leave the information down below and you guys can check it out and see if it's a charity that you'd be interested in helping out. But with that, let's check out the oldest cities in the UK.
So what are the oldest cities in the United Kingdom? Well, there are 10 that are so old that they predate the record books themselves and are said to have held their city status since time immemorial. Before I dive into the list though, I should explain briefly what constitutes a city in the UK. In short, there are two kinds: those with an Anglican cathedral, which alone qualifies them by ancient prescriptive right, and those who were granted city status following an application. The latter kind came about during Queen Victoria's reign, where many industrial towns became cities. But we're here to focus on the former, specifically those whose founding date is unknown, mostly on account of the poor record keeping of the Saxons.
Okay, before we get it, what cities do you think is going to be the oldest?
Oh, I don't know. I don't even know if I know that many cities.
I feel like Oxford's going to be on this list.
I think that.
London, which was Londonia, was founded, I think, pre-Roman, maybe. So I think London.
And is it the UK? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Edinburgh.
Maybe. But see, if you go to like Egypt, right, and you go to Cairo, and like you see the pyramids, what Cairo is today was not like the capital of Egypt before. And like we have towns even here that like used to be big towns, but now the town, like there was a certain point that Orlando was not a major hub in Florida, but now it is. So there's a chance that these surrounding little small areas is going to be bigger towns than what we see.
Older towns.
Yeah.
For perspective, the oldest UK city with a definitive date is believed to be Durham, founded in AD 995, assuming the records of the time are accurate. So the 10 oldest cities, in order from north to south, rather than chronological order, as that part is unknown, are as follows. Number 1.
York.
Originally a Roman settlement founded in AD 71 under the name Eboracum, the city of York is situated at the confluence of the River Ouse and River Foss, and it became a suitable outpost at which the Romans could suppress the local tribe, the Brigantes. In the 4th century, Emperor Constantine the Great was declared Roman Emperor in York, and he became the first to allow Christians to worship freely, and by the year 314, Eboracum had its first bishop. In the 7th century, the Saxons came and named it
Something always gets me about the UK, right? So you're seeing that wall, right? That wall is it's a Roman wall. I gotta set this chair up. So that wall is a Roman wall. But like now you're walking down and you're seeing like these medieval buildings. And that's history built on top of history. It's so cool. But
Well, yeah. Just how pretty they are. Why is anything, this is my question, why is anything that is super old really pretty? And like new stuff is not.
Yeah. Well, things last 1,000 years.
Why?
When they built, somehow we gotten better, but their stuff lasted 1,000 years and our stuff can't last.
Yeah,
20.
how about that?
Yeah.
You buy a house.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. I'm not even talking.
Eoforwic, with the wic suffix suggesting that it was a trading centre. In 601, Pope Gregory sent a mission to convert the British to Christianity. He selected York to be the church's centre in the north. In 735, York became an archbishopric. In AD 866, the Danish Vikings conquered Eoforwic and put their own Scandinavian spin on it, naming it Jorvik, and made it their effective capital in the British Isles. Its iconic cathedral, York Minster, or to give it its official name, the Cathedral and Metropolitical Church of St. Peter in York, was consecrated in 1472 on the site of an old Saxon church believed to date from the 7th century, which in turn was on the site of the old Roman Basilica. This is, of course, the seat of the Archbishop of York.
So we...
Number 2. In the 6th...
I know it's going to be repetitive, but we had the Romans, we had the Saxons. When he says the Danes, he's talking about the Vikings. So, I mean, it's a lot of history.
Century, St. Daniel founded a monastery in a settlement in the area we now refer to as North Wales. This became known as Bangor, meaning wattled enclosure in Old Welsh. Daniel became the first bishop of Bangor in the Kingdom of Gwynedd. On the site of the original monastery is Bangor Cathedral, which was built in the 12th and 13th centuries. Restorations took place over the centuries following various attacks, including one instance when King John destroyed it during a raid on Gwynedd. Bangor is the oldest city in Wales, or to put it another way, the oldest city in the UK outside of England. Number 3. In the 7th century, St. Chad, Bishop of Mercia, declared this city his bishop's seat. The settlement was Lichfield, and it became the focal point of Christianity in the Kingdom of Mercia. Following Chad's death in 672, Lichfield became a place of pilgrimage. A Saxon church was built, which became his resting place. In the same spot, the Normans built a new cathedral.
Look at the top of that cathedral. I don't know if it's just the visual of that. That looks like something from the Lord of the Rings. How dark and how like, don't it? I know it's a church, but it looks so ominous over the...
Yeah, it does.
Over the town. That's crazy.
From the year 1085. The construction of the present cathedral began in 1195, featuring the UK's only medieval triple spire.
Wow.
Number 4. Very little is known about the Roman history of this city, but the Saxon settlers discovered a fort here and named it Weagorna Sestra, though the meaning of Weagorna is unclear. Nevertheless, the name evolved to Worcester. In the 7th century, the first cathedral at Worcester was built, which became the seat of the Bishop of the Hwickers. Hwicker was a tribal kingdom existing from the 6th to the 8th century, situated around the area equating approximately to parts of Worcestershire, Warwickshire and Gloucestershire of today. Worcester was its capital. With the Viking invasion and subsequent establishment of the Danelaw in the 9th century, Worcester became a burh, i.e. a fortified settlement, as part of a move by King Ethelred and his wife Ethelfled to solidify the Kingdom of Mercia against the Danish threat to the east. From the late 11th to the 16th century, a second cathedral was built in Worcester. in a range of architectural styles from Norman to Perpendicular Gothic. Number 5. In the 7th century, Bishop Putter became the first bishop of this city and is believed to have been responsible for the construction of the first cathedral here. The city is Hereford. The name
Never heard of that
Hereford
one.
is believed to derive from Old English for army river crossing. It was a frontier settlement which saw various conflicts between the Anglo-Saxons and not only the native Welsh but the Danes as well. In 1079, the Normans began the construction of the current Hereford Cathedral on the site of its Saxon predecessor. Work continued into the 13th century.
So 1079. So that's 1079. It is 2025. So in 2079, which we'll probably won't be here then, I don't think.
I can't do math.
Well, I'd be 89.
So then you could still be here.
I could still be here, but that church will be 1,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty old.
And look how pretty it is, and it'll guarantee you it'll still be standing.
Well, no, it will, but you got to keep in mind, like, you remember, like, we was talking about this in one of our other videos. They put a lot of money into keeping them going. Like, there's a lot of time spent on rebuilding these churches, and a lot of these churches back in the day, it was like you remember we was talking about in the Oxford video that they rebuilt, Oxford Cathedral a couple of times. It's had a couple of refurbishments and grew bigger. So I'm wondering, looking at this, was this the original structure, or was this built on? Because they tend to like to do that.
Century. Number 6. Now, here's where things get a bit technical. In the eyes of the law, the City of London, with emphasis on the city, refers to the approximate area the Romans inhabited from the 1st century AD, also called the square mile. This is actually both a city and a ceremonial county in its own right, and an enclave surrounded by the ceremonial county of Greater London. In the 9th century, Alfred the Great is believed to have come across the old Roman fortifications and turned it into a Saxon fortified settlement that could better withstand Viking attacks than the previous base, believed to be around the Covent Garden area, with 2 street names of today providing clues, as in Old English, Strand means beach and Aldwych means old trading centre. Following the establishment of the Archdiocese of Canterbury, a cathedral was constructed in London in the 7th century and was dedicated to St. Paul. This has gone through various iterations up to the present structure designed by Christopher Wren.
I just want to point out how massive that cathedral is when you walk up on it.
Yeah.
That does not do it justice.
Not at all.
But if you look down at the very bottom of this, like at the very bottom below that pillar, below that line, if you was standing at the bottom of that wall in this frame, I don't think you would see the top of your head. But you don't realize how tall that looks like. That wall right there is maybe 2 or 3 steps up. It's not. And the idea of it.
No, because isn't that a garage?
What?
Or what is this right here?
Yeah, but that's it. That's depth perception.
I know, but I'm just saying.
That's still, that garage would still have more space underneath the scroll line. Underneath the scroll line
Is that
right
a garage?
here. No, I think that's just a wall.
Yeah.
But underneath the scroll line right here, you still wouldn't see your head. And that top piece right there, that very top piece, there should be people standing on that, and you would barely see them. Like, the idea of seeing that and just being there, how large that was, is really insane.
In the aftermath of the Great Fire of 1666. Number 7. Before the Romans came, This area was home to a tribe known as the Cantiaci, from which the name of both the city and its county, Kent, derive.
Ken.
The city, of course, being Canterbury. After the Claudian invasion of AD 43, the Romans established a military base which they called Duravernum Cantiacorum. This became the principal trading centre for the surrounding area. Around AD 270, defensive walls were put in place, which remain in place to this day, albeit with various reworkings. In the 6th century, the Jutes established the Kingdom of Kent, with Canterbury becoming its capital. In AD 597, St. Augustine arrived in England on a mission to convert its inhabitants to Christianity. In doing so, Augustine became the first Archbishop of Canterbury. By the 9th century, it was firmly established as the centre of the English Church. This did, however, mark it out as a target for the Danish Vikings across multiple generations.
Vikings are
Wow.
In
rascals.
1011, Canterbury Cathedral was burnt following the capture
What?
of Archbishop Althege. The cathedral was rebuilt and subsequently burnt on 2 more occasions before being built in stone. It was the site of the martyrdom of Thomas Becket in 1170 by the Knights of Henry II, and subsequently became a place of pilgrimage. Number 8. England's smallest city is also among its oldest. Named after the wells in the grounds of the Bishop's Palace and the cathedral, the city of Wells is believed to have originated as a small Roman settlement. In the early 8th century, King Ine of Wessex chose Wells as the site of a minster church.
I want to look up where that's at on the map because that seems confusing.
Wells and Wales.
Yeah, Wells and Wales. Somerset. So where is that? It's not far from Wells. It's like right across the river, right across the fjord, whatever you want to call it, from Cardiff. Wells.
By the early 10th century, the Diocese of Wells had been founded by King Edward the Elder. This diocese moved to Bath in the Norman period, but as a compromise, a joint diocese was later set up between the two, but officially returned exclusively to Wells in the 13th century, several decades after the construction had begun on Wells Cathedral. Number 9. The first inhabitants of this city are believed to be the Belgae tribe. The Romans arrived here shortly after the Claudian invasion of AD 43 and established their own settlement, which they called Venta Belgarum. The meaning of Venta is uncertain, but believed to be a Brythonic word for market. When the Saxons discovered the abandoned Roman settlement, they named it Venta Casta, meaning Fort of Venta, which evolved into Winchester. In the 7th century, a church was built here, and in AD 676 the Bishop of Wessex moved his seat to Winchester, effectively making it a cathedral. The Normans would later demolish this in the late 11th century and begin to build in its place the present Winchester Cathedral, although work continued until the 16th century.
That one's
In
very
AD
different looking.
871, Alfred the Great was crowned King of Wessex and established Winchester as its capital. When England became united as a single kingdom in the 10th century, Winchester remained the capital until the 12th century. Number 10. In the 1st century AD, the Romans ventured into an area of the southwestern British Isles, where they founded Isca Dumnoniorum, a name which references the Dumnoni tribe who predated the Romans, and to whom the county Devon is named after. The city was, of course, Exeter, and was situated at the southwestern terminus of the ancient Roman road known as the Fosse Way. In the 7th century, the Saxons settled in the ruins of the abandoned Roman settlement, which they named Escancester, whose name evolved to Exeter. Having been subject to various Viking attacks, it was fortified in the 10th century by King Athelstan. In the year 1003, disaster struck as the Vikings plundered the city after they were let in through the gates. Although more or less reduced to rubble, Exeter recovered, and by 1050, Exeter Cathedral was founded. From the early 12th century, it was rebuilt by the Normans. And those are the 10 oldest cities in the United Kingdom as it pertains to city status. And to reiterate, in no particular chronological order, as their dates of foundation will remain a mystery.
So that's one thing that I can appreciate about the UK, right? That I find amazing. Besides all the little tribes that they was talking about, because I'm reading, I feel like I'm running this into the ground with it, but I'm reading history of ancient Britain, and we're just now getting to the part where there's hinges, talking about Stonehenge, and they went from hunting to farming. And when they went to farming, it seemed like as soon as they stopped farming, or as soon as they stopped hunting, they started building these hinges. Like as soon as they stopped worrying about where they was going, they started was like, what is this all about?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So they built all these hinges and stuff. So you're really starting to see the formulation
How
of
it
these
came to be.
tribes. Yeah, of these tribes that he's talking about, like these early sources. And I know that it's going to start building up more to what he's talking about in these areas, because where these hinges was and stuff like that, and these burial grounds, it's just really impressive. But what I really appreciate about the UK is that idea that it's like, this town is very old. How old? Don't know.
Super old.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's just old. It was here before we started writing things down. You know, even with like, and I know that's a weird thing to say, especially coming from an American standpoint, but it's like, I would assume more of carbon dating. They're like, well, how old is it? It's like, well, the oldest thing that we have carbon dates to, like, 1,500, 2,000 years ago. But that's just the thing that we have now. There's no evidence that there's not more, so we can't trace it any. When we keep digging, we might find something else. You know, and that's just amazing. And I find it cool that it's like all the all-star cast has been there. Like the whole the whole all-star cast has been there. We got the Neanderthal. We got early humans. We had some Ice Age in there. We got your Romans. We got your Vikings. I mean, it's like a red carpet of history, the UK is. And all of them just getting out like this, like just waving at the paparazzi. It's modern day science. It's really amazing. Like I find these things and I stare at them and I'm just like, there's no way. It's all a bunch of different rabbit holes you can go down.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
It's like history on top of history.
Yeah.
And it's just going to keep going.
Yeah. And like what he was talking about, he was keeping it brief, and I applaud him for doing that. Check out his channel, because it is very, very hard to keep something like this brief.
Yeah.
But check out his channel, because the things that he was saying was basically, I guarantee everything that he said, there's probably been books written on it the size of the Bible, multiple of them, of just the information of what he covered so briefly. Because these are just, there's so many things, and it's just so amazing. And I like how every one of these towns, like, had that cathedral.
Yeah.
Just like an ominous cathedral in the background. It made it really beautiful.
But each one had its own look.
Yeah. I like the triple spire one. I think that was my favorite one.
It was cool.
Yeah. Are you from these towns? Do you know any of the histories? Here's a good question. Do you know the tribe that inhabited your town before the Romans?
Oh.
That's a good question,
Yeah.
isn't it? Was it? Was there a tribe? Let us know in the comments. Thank you to all our Patreons helping support the page, and check out actionsforkidsuk.com down in the description. We're getting closer to returning to the UK. I am Rich.
And I'm Tiffany.
That was 10 of the oldest towns in the UK.